In this morning's chat, we're going to talk about how to develop a core belief system. Having core beliefs is key to establishing a home. And everything in your life, including your business, your career, all revolve around your home. And the strength of that home influences those things that revolve around it. So your business success depends upon the strength of your home. And the strength of your home depends upon the core belief system that you have developed and the integrity of it. So a core belief system, it is part of your home. It's your foundation. It's your core. It's your center. It's what helps make it a lot easier for you to make quicker decisions because you know what you believe. And you believe what you believe regardless of who you're with and where you are and what time of day it is. Those core beliefs go with you everywhere. Welcome to the show, Go Back to Bed, where we wake up way too early to discuss what really matters in life and business, and why the home should be at the center of your solar system. I'm going to bring you into a world where entrepreneurship is a way of living, not just a way to make a living. In our conversations, you will get practical advice to help you start your day with clear priorities and confidence to pursue your goals. Most importantly, you will learn how to find your voice, meaning you know what you believe, you know what you want, you know what you stand for, and you become the writer and director of your personal and professional life. Today's quote is, "If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything." Now, who said that quote, for some reason it tends to be attributed to several different people. Alexander Hamilton, Malcolm X, Peter Marshall are only a few that tend to be given credit for that. So I'm unsure exactly who originally said it, but it's something you can look into. It's a quote that many of us are familiar with, that if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And that is completely true. I used to not stand for something. I used to be very apathetic towards what to believe regarding politics, regarding religion, regarding just, I avoided having a core belief system. I thought that having too many opinions would create conflict. And so I sat on the fence. Core beliefs, they get infused into your identity. It is what allows you to really have integrity, because when you have that belief system in place, you're the same whether you're alone or with somebody else. It doesn't matter where you are and who you're with. You are the same. You believe what you believe and you behave in the way you behave, and you are consistent through and through. Having core beliefs, it affects how you interact with the world around you and how you approach your career and business and family life. When you have a solid core belief system, it really is easier, much easier, to make better decisions and quicker decisions that allow you to create the success that you want. And because along the way, you're not doing things that compromise those beliefs. So when you hit various crossroads, you know which way to go, which one will stay in alignment with those core beliefs. So when you have core beliefs that are written down, where you are aware of it, you have solidified them, and you've constructed them into actual sentences on paper, it's easier for people to trust you. And that will affect your business success. It will affect your personal relationship success. It will affect your overall success with interacting with other people. And that is a vital part of being able to build up your business from home and being able to find the successful balance that you're striving for as a work from home entrepreneur and someone who doesn't know what to believe. They are harder to trust. It's much harder to predict their behavior. And so, because you don't know what standard they hold themselves to, because they don't have a standard that they hold themselves to. And because of that, you will struggle more to find clients. You will struggle more to be able to network with the people that will help pull resources to your career and business. And because who's going to want to trust somebody with their money and with their time who is constantly shifting on how they see things and their opinions on things? It makes it difficult to work with that person. So what we're talking about today absolutely affects your ability to build a successful home-based business, and runs right with the theme of this show to put the home at the center of your life and what that means and how to strengthen that core, that home. Because even if your clients or potential clients don't know what your core beliefs are, they know whether you have ones or not, because it comes out in your confidence. It comes out in the organization you have in your business. It comes out in your communication. It comes out in how you interact with people. The lack of core beliefs, it shines through. And sometimes it's all subconscious how your clients or potential clients picks up on it. Very often it's all subconscious. They're not sitting there consciously saying to themselves, wow, this person just really lacks having a core belief system, so I don't think I want to work with them. They usually just feel kind of uncomfortable with the prospect of working with you. And they don't know why a lot of times, but it can often have to do with that lack of having a solid core belief system. And so you are a harder person to trust. Now, let's define the type of person that somebody is when they don't have a well thought out core belief system that they are aware of. That way you more fully understand what it means to have a core belief system by knowing what kind of person somebody is when they don't have it. And as I go through this list, you might recognize some qualities as something that you know is a part of yourself right now, and that's okay. You just have to be honest with that and know that now is a good time to start improving and to start developing that system. And just know that as I go through this list, I was a lot of these. And before I really started to hunker down and develop my core belief system. So there's no judgment here if you feel that you are some of these things. So first, too agreeable. Somebody who is too agreeable. Somebody expresses an opinion, you agree with it. Somebody else expresses an opinion and you agree with it, and you're constantly agreeing with everyone. You keep shifting opinions. You keep shifting positions on topics based on who you're with as you're discussing those topics. You contradict yourself often in speech versus actions, or speech versus speech. You say one thing and then say a different thing, or you say one thing and then act differently to what you said. You say one thing and mean another. You say one thing but act against it. These kinds of contradictions is very much a part of somebody who doesn't have a core belief system. They're too easily persuaded by what's popular or by what somebody that they look up to or idolize believes. So this can be one that many of us fall trapped to, that if an idea is popular, that doesn't necessarily mean that that idea is right. But those who don't have a solid core belief system are more easily persuaded by ideas that are popular. and aren't really questioning it and are just thinking, oh, it must be right because it's popular. Makes me think of Star Wars. The Jedi had an easier time persuading the weak-minded. And a big part of being weak-minded is not having a solid core belief system. You are more easily persuaded. Your mind is not set with certain core beliefs. So it's much easier for people to take advantage of you and for you to be manipulated. Somebody without a core belief system doesn't ask enough questions. They don't tend to question things, to seek further understanding. This goes actually along with the last one of just joining in on what's a popular belief rather than really questioning it. And, they really don't, somebody makes a claim and they don't put that claim on trial to really test its validity. They just trust it. Oh, well, the media, they trust this guy, so I'm going to trust him. And there's just not a whole lot of questioning things. They give in to peer pressure and social pressure is another way of seeing that. And often when there's a popular belief, either amongst your peers or amongst just the world in general, then you give into that more easily. They have a more difficult time explaining what they believe. So if they're asked about what they believe about something, they kind of stumble upon their words trying to explain what they think about it. They can't manage their time well. Yeah, it does affect that. Somebody without a core belief system has a harder time knowing how to prioritize their time, because your priorities and where you're putting your focus really is influenced by that core belief system. You know what's most important to you, you know what you believe, and that does influence how you prioritize your time and where you put your focus and how you manage that time. They aren't sure where they're heading. They are the kind of person where their future is very blurry. They feel like they have more of a lack of purpose. They live too much in the moment, and are too spontaneous. I understand there are some differences depending on personality as far as somebody's level of spontaneity and being just living moment to moment. But those who lack a strong core belief system tend to have even a more exaggerated version of that, of really being just too spontaneous, too erratic, too kind of all over the place. And they, again, going back to being too easily persuaded by marketing, by what's in social media or on the media or on the news. They really lose, they don't have the ability to have those critical thinking skills. Critical thinking is very much in opposition to a person who has a solid core belief system. And overall, they often don't have a mind of their own. And what comes out of their mouth when they express their opinion on something isn't their own voice a lot of the time. It's sound bites from the news that they watched yesterday. It's sound bites from their friends or colleagues. They tend to be the kind of person where they're constantly expressing other people's opinions, but they don't have any congruency in what their own opinions are, and you can tell the difference. And it's difficult to know what they believe because they're constantly mimicking everyone else's beliefs. And yes, our beliefs can be inspired by other people's teachings. That's where it all starts. That's how we really gain a belief system, is we learn about what other people believe, and then we start to form our own beliefs. And we make observations about the world around us. But that's different than just copying and pasting somebody else's perspective without any thinking on your own part. There's a difference there. It requires work and effort on your part to develop your own belief on something. And even if a good chunk of that is similar to somebody else's beliefs, having your own voice in it requires some time and some work and effort to really compile together your own belief on that. And we will get into that a little bit later when I talk about how to develop your own core belief system. And overall, the kind of person that doesn't have a core belief system doesn't have a consistent standard of behavior. They just, the way they behave seems to be inconsistent as far as like, wait, what is your standard of behavior for this or that? So you don't want to be that type of person. And again, we're all guilty of struggling with some of these or all of these. And I certainly did all the way until my late 20s. So like a third of my life, I struggled with a lot of these. And only in the last couple of years have I really solidified my core belief system. Getting married and then starting to have kids and growing a family really motivated me to figure out what I believed. Because now I'm like, oh, now I'm going to be a teacher to my children. But how do I teach them if I don't know what I believe? And my whole goal is to teach them to have a mind of their own and to figure out what they believe. I don't want them to just copy and paste what I believe, but their beliefs will start with what I believe. And overall, one of my core beliefs is the importance of having your own choice and developing your own core beliefs. And so that is something that I will teach my children, is how to develop their own core belief system and how to put in their own work so that they have their own perspective, and that their perspective will still be different than mine, even if they adopt certain ways of thinking that I have. So we've talked about what kind of person somebody is when they don't have a solid core belief system. But now let's just really define what core beliefs are, right? You're probably wondering, wait, what is a core belief? What's a good example of it? Because how can you write your own if you don't really know what they are, right? Core beliefs they're the more fundamental truths and perspectives that we cling on to that really guide us through our life. They aren't the surface level opinions on popular topics, the kind of things that people tend to get into debate over. It's the deeper core beliefs on certain areas. Often when people dig down deeper into their core beliefs, they find that they actually agree with each other more than they think. That is one of the signals of a core belief, is that more people tend to actually share that core belief, even if they differ on the surface level opinion. Because often that surface level opinion has to do with the strategy associated with realizing that core belief opposed to the actual core belief beneath it that they tend to agree on. So it's important that we become aware of our own core beliefs and know how to help others become aware of them, so that you don't get in these contentious fights over surface level topics, and you can really dig down deep and be like, oh, we actually agree on this core element that is feeding this surface level thing. And so then you can come together and then discuss various strategies that you can both be okay with. So core beliefs are how we see ourselves. They are how we see the world around us, people around us, and the future. They're what we believe regarding how things are and how things work. It's our understanding of truth. It's our understanding of how things really are. So people will say that truth is relative, and I think that's a miswording. The very definition of truth is how things really are and really will be. So it's unchanging. It's unchanging that the earth is round and that gravity exists. And perspective can be relative, and perspective is relative to individual people. So as human beings, we have limited perspectives based on our life experiences. And those perspectives define us, and we should seek to keep expanding our perspective so that we aren't just seeing partial truths, but ultimately it's the perspective that is different person to person. And each person kind of has different slices of perspective on things. So that's why it's important to come together and talk to each other about what we believe, and come from a place of respect of, you have your own perspective for a reason, because of what you were taught and your life experiences gave you this perspective. But it needs to be separated from truth. We're all trying to understand truth, and we each see different pieces of it. So, a core belief is something where it can't contradict another core belief. So when you create a core belief system, each of your core beliefs have to all fit together. You can't have one contradicting another. And if you end up having that, then you need to dig deeper on some of them and figure out what that core belief really is. It means you haven't done enough work yet to really narrow down and hone in those core beliefs. So the best way to define a core belief beyond me trying to explain it is to just give some examples. I'm going to share some of my core beliefs on various topics, and hopefully that will give you a better idea of what a core belief is so that you can start thinking about your own. So I encourage you to take some notes and start writing down, that resonates with me. Maybe that is one of my core beliefs as well, or something I want to adopt as one of my core beliefs. That is how you develop your own core belief system. You start hearing about other people's beliefs, and you start collecting those, and then you start to figure out what you believe. And so hopefully I can help start the process for you by sharing some of mine. So I divide my core beliefs into a few different categories to help me better organize them and better understand them. And you can organize your core beliefs however makes sense to you. But for me, I just like to keep it simple, where I have political, social, economic, religious, and health is its own category. And there are some subtopics like family, business, life purpose, money, and other subtopics that are connected to those overarching categories. But I'm just going to focus on the overarching categories for now, because most people can divide their core beliefs into these same categories. These are very universal categories for a core belief system. Now, political, social, economic, those things often get blended together, but they are different, and I'm going to separate mine a little bit. Just know that my core beliefs are much deeper than just surface level politics that we often get caught up in. So I'm not giving my opinion on current events or commenting on certain political policies. I'm just explaining my core beliefs here. And you might be able to link it to certain surface level topics or certain political stance, but overall, these are just fundamental core beliefs of mine. So I'm going to start with political and economic, and I'm going to go between both of those. And again, those things tend to be combined a lot of the time. So I believe that the primary responsibility for resolving problems rests first of all with the individual, then with the family, then the community or local area, neighborhood, then the region, then the nation, not the other way around. So if a problem arises, it's the individual who is the first one responsible to figure out how to fix that problem. And if the individual cannot fix it and it involves more than one person, then the family gets involved in trying to figure out a solution. Then the community, the town, the state, the region, eventually the country. In other words, the federal government at that point gets involved as one of the last resorts. So that is a fundamental core belief of mine. 2, I do not support the two-party political system. I do not identify with any political party. I very much side with George Washington's core belief, who in his closing address, he warned against the formation of political parties because he said that it would inevitably cause not only contention, but it would cause people to support more than they actually support. Like, for example, very few people support every single policy that their political party agrees with, that is part of their political party's platform. So they always feel slightly, there's always that slight uneasiness of, well, I support some of these. I support more policies in this party than I do that party, so I'm going to be loyal to this party, even though I don't resonate with everything. It creates a lot of conflict internally and externally when we live within a two-party system. So I very much don't believe in that system. I believe in the founding fathers' original intention, which was to have a problem-solving wing of government that focused on solving problems that arised, that or problems the individual, the family, or the region could not solve. So the government had to get involved. So you have a problem-solving wing of government, and then you have a conservation wing that preserves the country's resources and preserves the country's freedom and people's individual rights. And so neither wing can contradict each other. Those wings were meant to work together, not compete with each other, work together. But those wings ended up evolving into different political parties opposed to just wings of government. And that's the problem we're in today, which is why nothing gets done and why there's just constant contention and fighting back and forth because of this horrible political party system that we're in. And so an example would be that if a problem needs to be solved, it cannot deplete the country's resources or take away an individual's freedoms and rights. That is what I believe. And that is a core belief of mine with how government should work. So then also, I believe what is also stated in the Declaration of Independence, which is that humans are endowed with inalienable rights, meaning they're rights granted by God or nature or whatever greater being you believe in that predates government. So these rights, they're not granted by the government. They're not given by the government, but it's up to the government to protect those rights. So some of these rights include the right to life, the right to liberty, the right to own property, the right to have the pursuit of happiness. And so, in other words, you get to pursue whatever type of life you want. You get to pursue being able to build up a business from home and freelance. And you have the freedom to pursue that type of life. And nobody can tell you you can't. You have the freedom to choose what kind of career and job you want and so forth. You get to pursue what to you is a fulfilling and happy life. Now, liberty is when individuals overall have the freedom to make a choice for themselves, right? But liberty ends when it interferes with somebody else being able to have those basic inalienable rights. So if your liberty is now causing somebody else to lose their life and get hurt, that's where it ends. That's where that right has a limit, right? It ends when it begins to interfere with somebody else having the right to life. You know, that's why murder is illegal and bad. That's why stealing somebody else's property or damaging their property is not a protected right. You don't have the right to go damage somebody else's property or steal their things because now you're interfering with their right to property. So the next one is I believe that the far left of the political spectrum is where you find the largest government. So just to keep it simple, I think things have gotten too complicated in how the political spectrum is being taught. The far left is where you have the largest government. So the largest government ultimately means tyranny, it means communism, it means fascism, dictatorship. That is what comes when you have the largest form of government you can have, where people have no rights, they have no freedom, and the government has total control. The far right is where you have anarchy, where there literally is no government and everyone is out for themselves. There's no order or law whatsoever. I believe that the proper place on that spectrum is right in the center, which the founding fathers referred to as the people's law. And this is not to be confused with the current popular political spectrum where the middle is just a compromise of Democrat and Republican party policies. That's a very different thing. I'm talking about the true middle between anarchy and total excessively large tyrannical government. The Constitution was created as a document to represent that middle. That document literally is the written explanation of what that dead center looks like, that people's law. The perfect balance of government and individual freedom. I believe that the highest level of prosperity occurs for the most people in a free market economy under capitalism, with a minimum of government regulations, because a free market economy ultimately regulates itself when it's left alone. Now, we've talked about this extensively in previous episodes, so I'm not going to dive too deeply here into teaching the concept and giving examples. I just want you to go back and listen to previous episodes where I talk more about capitalism and the free market. Free market freelancing, I think, is the title of one of the episodes where I go into that. Now, capitalism is not perfect, and there will be corruption, but the corruption is more contained to a small group. It's more easily punished, and usually does not infect an entire society. So I believe that the highest level of prosperity occurs in a free market economy, and that is a core belief. I believe in the freedom of speech, meaning that people can express their opinions on something in the public square, which includes literally out in the streets, or it includes online, on social media, on a website, on a video like this. I'm right now expressing my freedom to have speech and express my opinion on things. People have that fundamental right, and that is a core belief in mine. Now, they have the right. So my belief on this is that people have the right to express their opinion regardless of whether it's true and regardless of how dumb of an idea it is. Regardless of how crazy of an idea it is, they have the right to express their opinion on something. And it's up to the individual hearing that opinion to decide for themselves whether they believe it or not. It is not up to the government or any large entity to filter and to stop certain beliefs from being able to be expressed. I don't believe that anyone can have and should have that power. And freedom of religion goes along with that, because the freedom of religion is literally the freedom to have a core belief system for yourself and to be able to live those core beliefs freely. Religion isn't just about joining a religion. Religion has to do with being able to, from your own conscience, create a set of beliefs and be able to live by those beliefs. And so that really goes hand in hand with the freedom of speech and being able to then express those beliefs. Because a lot of times, some of what was the craziest beliefs of the time ended up becoming the truth. Lots of people throughout history got criticized and crucified for expressing beliefs that were unpopular. And then with time, those beliefs turned out to be true, like the earth not being flat. Literally death threats for saying that the earth is round. And eventually it turned out to be true. So it's a very dangerous thing to not allow people to express their beliefs, even if it sounds crazy, even if you don't agree with it. That is fundamental core belief of mine. And so anything related to that, freedom of press, freedom of religion, all that. Now, so that kind of covers some of my key beliefs, not all of them, but some of them on politics and economics. Now, here's a few beliefs regarding religion. And again, this is not an exhaustive list, just a few to give you an idea of what a core belief is. So I believe in a God. I believe in a heavenly father and a mother. In other words, I believe that I have spiritual parents who created my spirit after their image, and they designed our physical bodies, and then they created a system by which our physical bodies can be created here on earth. And that is my belief in God. God is a physical being, but truthfully, a pair. It is a father and a mother, a man and a woman, together are God, and they have physical bodies, and we look just like them, and they created us after their image. So I also believe in Jesus Christ as being a real person that lived on this earth 2,000 years ago and was the only person who has ever lived and ever will live that was perfect. And he didn't make mistakes. And he demonstrated to all of us how to truly love other people. He taught many, many truths that many of which are the basis for my core beliefs. And many of his teachings are what provides my moral center of what is right and wrong. And many of his teachings are what a lot of civil societies have actually based their constitutions on and their beliefs. What is taught in the Bible is very much the freedoms that we enjoy in America were inspired by teachings from the Bible. The Bible very much teaches about free market economies. It teaches about all the freedoms that the Constitution guarantees were inspired initially from teachings from the Bible. So I do believe that is an inspired document. Ultimately, I believe that Jesus Christ is somebody who taught people how to treat people and really how to have unconditional love, and he demonstrated that. Also, I believe that our spirits lived before we were born, and we live on after we die. Our existence, our intelligence within us is eternal. So those are a few of my fundamental core beliefs related to religion. And again, just giving you a sampling. Social. Here's a few of my beliefs in the social category. 1, we are all created equal, regardless of race, of sex, of size, or anything else. We all deserve equal opportunity to create the life that we want to create. And we are not given the things that we want or the success that we want, but we all have the equal opportunity to pursue it. And we all have equal value because our value as human beings are infinite. And we all share that infinite value. I believe in persuasion over coercion, with the utmost respect for people to make their own individual choices. So the freedom to choose for oneself how to live must be protected, again, as long as it doesn't hurt another person's life. But as far as how we interact socially, I believe in trying to persuade somebody, not in coercing them through force. So that has to do with how we treat each other. That has to do with how the government treats us and so forth. Family comes first before any other relationship. And you should already know that by now, if you've been listening to this podcast, that for me is my top priority. And so that is a social belief of mine that my family comes first before any other relationship and any other thing in my life at all. Also, I believe in parental rights when it comes to the protection and education of children. So parents have the right to protect their children in the way that they feel is best and to educate their children in the way that they feel is best. And so that is also a social core belief of mine. Now, let me give you a few beliefs regarding the health category. I believe in medical treatment choice. So that means that no doctor and no government can ever force an individual to receive specific medical treatment for any reason. That means that they cannot force children to receive any kind of medication or medical treatment without a parent's permission. And that includes, but is not limited to, medication, immunization, surgery, cancer treatment or any other type of medical procedure or intervention is up to the individual's choice. That we are individually responsible for our own health, which ultimately connects to our right to life. So I connect it to that other core belief of having the right to life. And we each have the right to decide what is going to keep us alive and what is going to give us the highest quality life and the healthiest life. And we each have to be able to decide that for ourselves because we each have different bodies. So we each have different needs. There are some universal things that do provide health for most people, but ultimately we are different and have different issues we're dealing with physically and have respond to different foods differently, respond to different medicines differently. Some people have very negative reactions to certain medicines that other people don't have as much to. And so it is very, very important that we have our individual freedom to be able to decide for ourselves what we feel right about and what we don't regarding any kind of medical treatment or intervention whatsoever. So no government or entity can ever infringe upon that right, because you're literally infringing upon the right to life in that instance. I really do fully believe in Hippocrates' quote, which is, "Let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food." So that is something that my wife and I go by in how we approach health is we turn to food as our primary medicine. I believe in the importance of physical health, mental health, emotional, and spiritual health as all working together to then build your overall well-being. So they all affect each other and they all contribute to your overall health. So it's important to take care of each of those areas, not just one of them. So that is a good list, a starting point of my core beliefs. That's not all of them, but that is some of them that hopefully by me giving you an example of some of my core beliefs, you've been able to start thinking about what you believe, that now you understand more of what a core belief is. And again, I used to be very apathetic towards my opinions on things. And I avoided forming strong opinions because I thought it would cause conflict. And I realized that I really couldn't protect my family, nor teach my children anything, nor find success in my career if I didn't find my voice. Forming a core belief system is key to finding your voice, which is one of the ultimate objectives about this show, is to help you find your voice in your life, in your career. And having that core belief system gives you a voice. It gives you a voice on this and that, and ultimately helps you to be a person that can be trusted more. Now, I wanted to provide an example of a core belief and how it connects to a specific surface argument so that you can see the difference between a surface argument versus a core belief that's connected to that. So here is a surface argument, and I'm going to give both sides of it. I'm not necessarily, and you probably already know what my opinion is on it, but I'm going to give both sides of it. The government should tax rich people, or just people in general, more in order to provide welfare for the poor, in order to equalize the distribution of wealth so that everyone essentially has more or less the same amount of income within a certain range. So that's the surface level opinion. Now, one side of this believes that the rich, their defense of that is that the rich don't deserve the extra money they have. They don't need it. They're not going to use it. They're not going to be charitable. They're just wasting it, or they're just sitting on it and it's not being spent on the economy. And the poor are struggling to climb out of their social class because of the oppression from the rich that have all the money. That's one viewpoint. An opposing viewpoint would say that taxing the rich reduces the incentive to build wealth to begin with, which overall would kill the economy, that nobody is motivated to become an entrepreneur and to build a business or to become an investor in this and that. That ultimately you get punished for being successful. So then it would demotivate people to build those businesses and to pursue that wealth. And it'll ultimately destroy capitalism and the free market economy. So that would be the opposing viewpoint. And also with that would be that regarding the poor, the opposing viewpoint is that the poor are capable at producing wealth if they get the right education and develop the right skills, but they are capable. So they don't need to be given that wealth from the rich. They are capable in climbing out of their situation when given the opportunity. And the opportunity really comes down to just getting educated most of the time. And they are human beings like the rest of us that, depending on the country they live in, if you're in the United States, you much more so have equal opportunity to climb out of that situation. That doesn't mean that you don't have your own limiting beliefs about yourself that keep you where you're at. And that doesn't mean that you don't need some help and a boost. But that opposing viewpoint does believe that the poor are capable in climbing out of their situation without being just given a free ticket. So there's plenty of disagreement on the surface level topic of whether the government should raise taxes on the rich to help the poor. There's obviously this is a continual debate in politics. So what's the core belief? Well, it depends on the person, right? But my core belief on this surface level topic is this. So rather than me just saying, hey, here's my opinion on the surface level topic, here's my core belief that connects into it. One, is actually a couple of different core beliefs that work together. One, you must work for your survival. That is a core belief of mine. If you want to survive and if you want to thrive, you must work for it. Firstly, because you appreciate it a lot more when you've worked for it. You appreciate money that you've earned. And you progress as a human being and you develop skills. And ultimately, you have joy when you work for your own survival. The Jamestown, and you can study this for yourself, but it's really interesting that the history in America really demonstrates this really well. Jamestown in Virginia, those colonists, they massively failed and were very miserable for a long period of time because they had become lazy, living off of welfare from the Indians and from the British king. And so they became slothful in how they approached living their life. That's also what led to the unfortunate and tragic institution of slavery, because they were like, I don't want to work for myself, so I'm going to buy slaves and I'm going to have them work for me. And I'm going to have them feed the economy opposed to me feeding it through me developing skills and putting in the work. So, which is another reason why the South, which is what Jamestown represented, was the primary driver of slavery, and it stayed that way throughout history. Then you have Plymouth, Massachusetts, which was very much in contrast to Jamestown, where they were very successful colonists and very prosperous, because they believed that you had to work for your own survival. And anyone that could physically worked, had to work. And so bringing it to a government context, Jamestown was very much practicing socialism, and Plymouth was very much practicing capitalism in its earliest forms. And it demonstrated a society that was constantly failing, and they were constantly starving in Jamestown versus those that were more prosperous up north. So that historical context kind of gives context to my core belief on that you must work for your own survival. Two, it's important to help the poor in whatever way you can. I really do believe, and again, coming back to my religious beliefs, that Jesus taught people to help the needy and to take care of the poor. And charity, to be defined as charity, must be voluntary. It's not charity if it's not voluntary. And it's not always about giving people money. That is one form of charity. Sometimes you literally need a boost of money. And in my own story, when we were in our own financial crisis, we needed a boost financially. And the people that helped us with a little bit of money was just enough to give us the boost we needed to then get on our own feet. But we were not reliant on that for a long period of time. It just gave us a quick boost. But ultimately, it wasn't the money that helped me out of my own financial situation of having $20,000 of credit card debt and just not being able to pay any of my bills. It was the education I received and the skills that I developed that helped me to climb out of that situation. It wasn't the money that I was giving, but a little bit of money helped to not only motivate me, but it helped to just cover some of that baseline temporarily to then be able to even focus on developing those skills and getting the education I needed to climb out of it. So often it's the strategy by which we implement charity that people disagree on. But I think everyone can agree that helping your neighbor is really important. That when you have more than you need, that you look for how you can help others with that excess. So that brings me to the elaborating on my third core belief that feeds into this surface level debate on whether the government should tax the rich to help the poor has to do with, now, do I believe that the wealthy should give away extra money to those in need? Yes, right? But it's their God-given right to be able to choose that. Many rich people, they have and continue to donate tons and tons and tons of money to charities and people in need. Those that have a cynical view towards those that are rich, thinking that none of them give their money, is just completely false. The majority of people that are rich give away tons of money. Yes, there's a minority of people who are greedy and who are Scrooges and don't care about other people. But the majority, they take care of themselves and their family first. And it's okay that they provide themselves a comfortable life first. And then with that extra, they're able to then give it back to the economy and give it to others. But charity has to be an individual choice. If it's not, then you are robbed from the opportunity to choose to give and ultimately the reward that comes from making that choice. If the rich have nothing left to give because of excessive taxation, then they don't get to give. They don't get to choose to be charitable. And that's really, really unfortunate. And it rips away an individual's freedom and desire ultimately to be able to give to others when they're like, oh, I have nothing left to give because it was all taken away through taxes. So those are my core beliefs related to the surface argument regarding whether the government should tax the rich to feed the poor. And so you can just kind of piece it together of where you think I fall on that surface level argument. And it might not be so black and white as completely aligning with one side or the other. But based on those core beliefs, you can probably just figure out what my opinion is on the surface level argument. But hopefully that gives you an example of the difference between a core belief and the surface level argument, or the strategy that we often end up getting into debate with people. And that's where all the contention is formed, and is in those surface level beliefs. Because often when you dig down to the core belief, you're like, oh, I actually kind of agree with you on that. We're going to close this episode by me giving you some tips on how do you start forming your own core belief system. What are the keys to being able to do that? One, you start talking to people about what they believe. And when they say something that resonates with you, you write it down. And you keep a document where you start writing down everyone else's beliefs. As you're talking to people and learning from them, you start writing down everyone else's beliefs, and then you start categorizing it into the various categories that make sense, kind of like that I've done. And that will help you kickstart that process. Two, you read, and you read, and you read more, book after book after book, of authors and thought leaders and various people who have written down their perspective on their beliefs. And you pull ideas from that. And it's very important that when you study different belief systems, that you study different belief systems. You have to study the opposing viewpoints of something to truly make a choice of what you believe. So for example, you need to study capitalism and you need to study socialism to make a choice of what your opinion is on both of those things. You can't just study capitalism. To truly develop your opinion on something, you must read a book or study material written by somebody for socialism and written by somebody for capitalism, to then be able to make your own choice on what you believe regarding those things. That is literally the definition by which you can make it. You really aren't making a choice if you haven't considered both sides. If you haven't become aware of two different ways of doing things, then you're not really making a choice at all. You're just going with what you think is the only option. So you have to learn both opposing things to truly find your voice in it. And then you'll just know what resonates with you. 3, talk to people and learn what others believe and read like crazy. So the third belief, or the third tactic, is just a summary of the first two. I just wanted to reiterate that it literally is that simple. That you just learn what other people believe, you study as much as possible, you read as much as possible, and you start to absorb all these different belief systems and all these different core beliefs that other people have and their reasoning for it. And they're going to quote things from history, they're going to quote things from their life experience in defending those core beliefs. And then you will be able to then narrow things down and form your own. And you'll be able to be like, okay, well, now I have a bunch of different beliefs and I have this contradicting this. And your document will initially have a bunch of contradictions, right? Because you've studied opposing viewpoints on things and you've maybe resonated with this angle on this thing, but also this thing. And then it will be a process for you to be able to start to go towards one viewpoint or another, at which point you start crossing things off your list, and eventually you'll be like, oh wait, this actually contradicts this, so which one do I believe? And then you make a choice, and eventually you'll have a core belief system that is all congruent, and there's nothing contradicting another thing. Now, what's the worst way to develop your core beliefs? Is by only hearing one side of a topic and getting all your opinions from the news, because the news, they're biased and they express their opinions on one side of a topic. Only hearing opinions on something from maybe your friend or parents and never hearing the opposing viewpoint. So basically the worst way is to not give yourself a true choice and to only hear one side of a topic. Now, over time, you will be able to develop this solidified, almost self-constitution, where it has your core beliefs on things. And, that's another thing. Like, that is a document, right? Studying the Constitution, studying different legal and government documents will help inspire different core beliefs. And that's what I've done. I've studied documents related to my religion, and I've studied documents related to my country, and those have also helped inspire my core beliefs. So when you have a solid core belief system, once you finally get to a place where you're like, this is me, you're going to feel a greater sense of identity. You're going to feel more confident. You're going to feel more confident in being able to express yourself to people and being able to communicate with people and being able to join in on conversations on certain topics. You're going to feel what it feels like to have your own voice in things, and you will have a stronger mind, and you will attract more people into your life that will help benefit your business and that will help benefit your personal life. Because people will feel safer with you. Ultimately, we feel safer with people that have a solid core belief system, like for the reasons I expressed at the beginning of this conversation, that you're more predictable and you live by a specific standard that we can understand. And so ultimately you are a safe person. You'll know who to vote for. You'll know what to believe. You'll be able to make much quicker decisions in your personal life, in politics, in your business, in your career, because those decisions will be based off of not compromising those core beliefs. But it's important to make sure that you always judge somebody by their actions and what they produce and not their words, because a person's true core beliefs will come out in their actions. And often when somebody doesn't have a core belief system, that comes out in their actions, that they're constantly contradicting themselves, they're constantly shifting, and all the other things we discussed earlier of what a person that doesn't have core beliefs is. And now this especially goes true for political leaders. They tend to use very good marketing techniques. They say one thing but do another. But what do they really believe? You have to pay attention to their actions. So overall, it is a worthwhile effort to create your own core beliefs document, which will be the basis for your core belief system. And just know that over time, it's okay. It will evolve. As you continue to learn more and more perspectives throughout your life from different people, your core belief system will evolve and change and focus in on this and focus in on that. But it's important that you always have one that is active, that represents your current core beliefs and your current perspective. And if you have that, it just makes a huge difference. And it really made a huge difference in my life in having that document representing my core beliefs. I've been able to I've had people that are like, hey, can I have a copy of your document, of your core beliefs document? Because, it inspired me and it gave me some good ideas. And then you can share your document with other people. And that can help them to develop their own core belief system. We need a world of more people who have a solid core belief system. Because when you don't, you have a much more fractured and chaotic society that has more conflict, that has more turmoil, that has more uncertainty. The basis of a functional, prosperous society starts within an individual's home, and that person having a set of core beliefs is what ultimately then expands out and affects an entire society and ultimately the world for the better. So choose now to develop a core belief system and to put in the effort and the time. And it could take several months to really put that together of like where you are now, especially when you have to put in a lot of time to reading books and studying and hearing what other people have to say. So with that, until next time, resist the urge to go back to bed. Those who go back to bed avoid developing a core belief system. They stay within their comfort zone to me, it's not a comfortable place to actually be in. Ultimately, there's anxiety, a lot of anxiety involved when you don't have a core belief system. You yourself don't feel safe. But those who go back to bed and stay within that comfort zone are really going to struggle. So resist that urge to go back to bed, and instead choose to have a voice. Choose to find your voice and then be able to inspire others with your voice. Be different and wake up to who you really are. I'm Chad Graveleze, and I hope that this was helpful to you. And I encourage you to subscribe on the YouTube channel if you haven't, and go to airlight.tv where you can learn more. With that said, I will see you and hear from you in our next very early morning conversation.